Rain poured the day we buried Grandpa. It wasn't a soft drizzle. It was heavy, relentless, the kind of rain that felt like the sky was mourning with you. The cemetery in Cedar Falls was lined with black umbrellas, expensive shoes sinking into the wet grass, and faces pretending to grieve. I stood at the back, alone. No umbrella, just watching. My name's Ethan Cole, and I was the grandson no one wanted around. The failure of the family. My cousins were lawyers, surgeons, investors. I was the odd one. A 32-year-old mechanic who fixed other people's cars and barely paid rent. To them, Grandpa's will wasn't about saying goodbye. It was a competition. The final scoreboard of who he loved most. Grandpa, William Cole, had been a legend in our small town. A man who built an empire from nothing. Real estate, factories, investments. He was respected, feared, envied. He was also the only one who ever believed in me. He used to tell me, "Ethan, life's not about what you inherit. It's about what you build when no one hands you a thing." At the time, I thought it was just one of his old man lessons. I didn't realize he meant it literally. The will reading was set for the next day at his estate, a mansion I'd only visited twice in my life. When I arrived, my relatives were already there. Polished smiles, silk dresses, and fake sympathy. My Uncle Raymond, Grandpa's eldest son, greeted me with that same smug tone he'd used my whole life. "Well, if it isn't the prodigal grandson," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. "Glad you could take time off from changing tires." I forced a polite smile. "Good to see you too, Uncle Ray." His daughter, Vanessa, rolled her eyes. "Can't believe Grandpa even invited him in his will." "Probably out of pity," her husband chuckled. "Maybe he left you a wrench." I said nothing. I just took a seat in the back, heart pounding but face calm. The lawyer, a short man in a gray suit named Mr. Donovan, began reading. His voice was steady, professional. "To my son, Raymond, and his wife, I leave $2 million in cash and the Palm Springs property. To my granddaughter Vanessa, I leave the family vineyard in Napa and $500,000. Gasps, murmurs, fake tears. Then came my name. And to my grandson, Ethan Cole. The room went silent. Every head turned toward me. Mr. Donovan paused, adjusting his glasses. "I leave one plane ticket." The words hung in the air like thunder. I blinked, sure I'd misheard. "A plane ticket?" Vanessa laughed, an ugly, loud laugh. "Are you kidding me? Grandpa left you a plane ticket? To where, Ethan? The unemployment line?" My uncle grinned. "Guess that's what you get for disappointing the family." Mr. Donovan cleared his throat. "The ticket is for a one-way flight to Seattle, Washington. There's also an envelope attached. I was instructed to give it to Ethan personally." He handed me a plain white envelope, sealed with Grandpa's initials in gold. Everyone was still staring. "Seattle?" I muttered, staring at the ticket. "Why Seattle?" No one cared. They were already too busy celebrating their new fortunes. Raymond lifted his glass of champagne. "Well, I suppose the old man knew where the real heirs were." The laughter echoed as I walked out. Outside, the rain had stopped, but the sky still looked bruised. I sat in my car, turned the envelope over in my hands, and opened it. Inside was a folded letter, written in Grandpa's sharp, steady handwriting. "Ethan, by now, you've seen what I left the others. Don't be angry. Every man must be tested by what he's given, and by what he's denied. The plane ticket isn't punishment. It's a door. Take the flight. Don't ask why. When you arrive, find a place called Pier 49. Ask for someone named Harper. She'll tell you what to do next. And Ethan, when the time comes, remember these 6 words. You'll know when they matter." Grandpa 6 words, but he didn't write them. He just said I'd know when they matter. I sat there for a long time, staring at the ticket, the letter, the mansion behind me. Inside that house, my family was toasting champagne to a fortune they didn't earn. And me? I was holding a single plane ticket. And a mystery. For a second, I almost threw it away. I almost told myself it was one last cruel joke. But then I remembered something Grandpa once told me when I was a kid. Sitting in his workshop, covered in sawdust and sweat. Sometimes, Ethan, the smallest gift holds the biggest door, so the next morning I packed a single duffel bag, boarded that plane to Seattle, and left everything behind. I didn't know what waited for me. I didn't know who Harper was, but I knew one thing. Whatever Grandpa had started, it wasn't over, not by a long shot. Seattle smelled like rain and salt water. Clean, cold, alive. Nothing like the stale mansion air I left behind. I stepped off the plane with one duffel bag and 100 questions. No plan, no backup. No clue why my grandfather would send me here when everyone else walked away from his funeral rich. But I came anyway, because the one person in my life who never lied to me had told me to. Outside the airport, taxis lined up in the drizzle. I climbed into one and handed the driver a slip of paper. Pier 49, I said. He glanced at me. Waterfront side. Tourists usually hit Pier 52, I shrugged. I'm not a tourist. The ride was quiet. Gray sky, soft rain tapping the windows, pedestrians bundled in jackets moving quickly through the cold. Seattle felt like a place built for second chances. Or for people running from something. I wasn't sure which one I was yet. When the cab pulled up to Pier 49, I stepped out expecting something. A clue, a sign, a destination that made sense. Instead, I saw fishing boats, worn docks, and the smell of diesel mixed with the ocean. No mansion, no lawyer, no dramatic reveal. Just a forgotten stretch of pier that looked like it belonged to another decade. Where to? I muttered under my breath. A small coffee shack sat at the edge, chipped paint, neon open sign flickering. I walked inside. Warm air, roasted beans, quiet indie music. A woman behind the counter looked up. Mid-50s, dark hair tied back, navy sweater, calm eyes. She had the energy of someone who'd seen 1,000 stories pass through and didn't judge any of them. "Morning," she said. "What can I get you?" I swallowed, nervous without knowing why. "I'm looking for someone named Harper." Her face changed, very slightly. Just a twitch in the eyes, a small breath. The kind of reaction people have when they hear a name they haven't heard in a long time. "Who's asking?" She said, "My name is Ethan Cole." Her eyes softened. Surprised, almost. Emotional. She stepped closer and lowered her voice. "You're William's boy." I nodded. "Grandson," she motioned toward a small table in the corner. "Sit," I sat. Back straight. Heart pounding. She brought coffee, sat across from me, and studied me like she was trying to understand a puzzle piece she'd been holding for years. "I'm Harper," she finally said. "Your grandfather told me you'd come." I blinked. "He told you?" "Yes, he trusted you more than the others. He always knew you'd show up." That hit me harder than I expected. She reached under the counter and pulled out a locked wooden box. Old, dark, polished, carved with initials WC. "Your grandfather left this for you," she said. "Said I was only to hand it over when you arrived." She placed it in front of me. "Solid weight. Cold wood, what's in it?" I asked. Harper leaned back. "Truth." I exhaled slowly, fingertips tracing the carved initials. "Why send me here? Why not leave me money like everyone else?" Her eyes sharpened. "Because money doesn't build men. Struggle does." I clenched my jaw. They mocked me, laughed at me. "They think he hated me. He loved you," she said softly. "Enough not to ruin you the way he ruined them." Those words landed like a punch. The kind of truth that hurts because it sounds too real. I ran my thumb across the metal latch. "What am I supposed to do?" "You open it," she said. "But listen to me first." She leaned forward, voice low. "Your grandfather didn't live the life they all think he did. And the people who smiled at his funeral." She shook her head. "Most of them are the reason he started planning all this decades ago." My blood ran cold. "What are you saying?" "He didn't leave you last," she whispered. "He saved you for last." Before I could speak, the door opened and someone walked in. Tall man, umbrella dripping, expensive coat. He glanced at me, then at the box, then back at Harper. His expression tightened. "What is he doing here?" The man snapped. His voice, sharp, entitled, I knew it instantly. My Uncle Raymond. He marched toward our table, heat in his eyes. "You listen to me, Ethan," he hissed. "You don't touch that box. You don't go digging into things that aren't yours." I stood slowly. "Grandpa left it to me." "No," he barked. "He left you nothing. You leave all this alone. Understand?" I stared him down, the same man who laughed as my inheritance was read. "No," I said calmly. "I don't think I do." His jaw clenched. "You're making a mistake." He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows shook. I looked at Harper. What does he know? She didn't answer immediately. She just pushed the box closer to me. "When you open it," she said quietly, "your life will no longer be the same. Not in wealth, but in truth. And truth changes people more than money ever could." My hand trembled as I unlocked the latch. Inside, wrapped in aged fabric, was a leather notebook, a key, a bank envelope, and a sealed letter marked, "Open only when you're ready." My chest tightened. "What is all this?" Harper's voice was gentle but firm. "It's the beginning. And for your family," her eyes hardened, "it's the beginning of the end." I didn't know whether to feel fear or fire, but one thing was clear. Whatever Grandpa planned, it wasn't small, and my family was terrified of it. I didn't open the sealed letter that night. Something in me knew it wasn't time. Instead, I sat in that cheap Seattle motel, rain pounding the window, staring at the wooden box like it was alive. The key and notebook lay in front of me, silent but heavy with meaning. The notebook looked old. Bound in worn brown leather, the pages yellowed, corners curled. I hesitated before opening it, afraid of what I'd find. When I finally flipped it open, the first page stopped me cold. It wasn't written like a diary. It was more like instructions. For Ethan, if you're reading this, then everything has gone the way I planned. You don't yet know who your family really is, but you will. Start where I started, not with money, but with dirt. The truth is buried where the coal name began. Underneath those words was an address. Coal Manufacturing, Tacoma, Washington. Grandpa's first factory. The one he'd built by hand in the 1950s, before the real estate empire, before the millions, before the family turned his name into a brand. I whispered to myself, "Why send me there?" The next morning, I drove to Tacoma. The factory had been shut down for over 20 years. Boarded windows, chain-link fence, rust eating through the walls. A no trespassing sign hung crooked near the entrance, but the lock on the gate matched the key from the box. I slipped it in and turned. It clicked open with a sound that made my chest tighten, like the past was exhaling. Inside was dust, silence, and history. Machines long dead, the faint smell of oil still clinging to the air. I walked through the aisles, flashlight in hand, until I saw a metal locker tucked in the far corner with a small WC carved on the door. Inside was a file folder, thick, weathered, full of old documents, property deeds, and photographs. But there was also something else, a flash drive taped to the inside wall. I pocketed it and took everything back to my motel. That night, when I plugged the drive into my laptop, a single video file appeared. It was labeled, "For Ethan, only you." My heart pounded as I hit play. The video flickered to life, grainy but clear. My grandfather sitting at his old oak desk, wearing that same calm expression I remembered. "Ethan," he began, voice deep and steady. "If you're watching this, I'm gone. And that means the others are already fighting over what I left behind." He sighed, leaning forward. "They think I built this fortune for them. They think loyalty can be bought, and that my silence meant approval. But they're wrong. The truth is, this family was built on a lie." I froze. He continued, his eyes sharp, direct. "I started coal manufacturing from nothing. But when your Uncle Raymond came of age, he made a deal behind my back. Sold company assets to a shell corporation that nearly bankrupted me. When I found out, I covered it up for the sake of the family name. That decision haunted me. And when they all got rich, they forgot where it came from. Blood money." My stomach turned. Grandpa's voice grew heavier. I could have exposed them years ago, but I wanted something better. Justice, not revenge. So I built a plan, piece by piece. Every company, every trust, every will. They're all connected, Ethan. And now, you're the only one who can finish it." He paused, then smiled faintly. "I didn't leave you money because money made them monsters. I left you purpose. Follow Harper's instructions. Don't trust anyone, not even her completely. And when the time comes, remember the 6 words." He leaned closer to the camera. "They'll know what they mean." The video ended. I sat there for a long time, my pulse in my ears. My grandfather had planned this for years. Not out of spite, but strategy. He wanted me to uncover something, to bring truth to light. But what truth? I opened the file folder next. Inside were copies of wire transfers, offshore accounts, and property titles, all connected to shell companies under Raymond's name. Millions hidden, funneled from coal industries into fake subsidiaries. He'd stolen from Grandpa, from the very company that made them rich. And that's when I realized the will wasn't unfair. It was deliberate. Grandpa had set a trap, and they'd walked right into it. The one plane ticket wasn't punishment. It was an invitation, and I was just getting started. The next morning, I drove back to the coffee shack at Pier 49. Harper was wiping the counter when I walked in. She looked up, reading my face before I spoke. "You found the video," she said. I nodded. He knew everything. About Raymond. About the theft, she sighed. He always did. But he believed revenge should be clean, built with truth, not anger. I pulled the folder from my bag. "These papers, they're proof. He left me everything I need to destroy them." Harper met my eyes. "Then the question isn't whether you can destroy them, Ethan. It's whether you should." I frowned. "After what they did? Justice and vengeance wear the same mask," she said softly. "You just have to decide which one you're serving." Before I could respond, the door burst open. Vanessa, my cousin, walked in. Her hair was perfect, makeup flawless, but her eyes were wide and cold. She slammed a newspaper onto the counter. "Explain this," she hissed. The headline made my stomach drop. "Cole family fortune under investigation, allegations of financial misconduct." How did this get out? She snapped. "The accounts, the transfers. You started this, didn't you?" I said nothing. She stepped closer, trembling with rage. "Do you know what you've done? You're going to destroy everything this family built." I looked her dead in the eye. "No," I said. "I'm going to save what he built. From you." Her expression twisted. "You think Grandpa loved you?" "He used you," I smirked. "Maybe, but he also trusted me. And that's something none of you ever earned." She stared at me like she wanted to strike me, then turned and stormed out into the rain. Harper let out a slow breath. "It's begun." I looked down at the letter still sealed in the box. My hands shook. "I think it's time," I whispered. I opened it. Inside, in my grandfather's sharp handwriting, were just 3 sentences. "Ethan, you found the truth. Good. But this isn't about exposing them. It's about freeing yourself. When you find what's hidden at the harbor, you'll understand the 6 words." I looked up. "The harbor?" Harper nodded slowly. "Then you're going to need help." "From who?" She gave me a faint smile. "From the last person your grandfather ever trusted." And for the first time since the funeral, I felt it, the quiet hum of purpose. The game had started, and my family had no idea what was coming next. The next morning, Seattle's sky was a flat sheet of gray. The rain had eased into a mist, the kind that clung to your skin and made the world feel heavy. "Harper called me at sunrise. He'll meet you today," she said. "Who?" "The man your grandfather called his mirror. His name's Sam Walker. You'll find him at the harbor near Dock 7. Don't ask questions. Just listen." Before I could press her for more, she hung up. I drove down to the harbor. The city's pulse slowed there. Fog rolled over the water like breath. Fishermen shouted in the distance, ropes creaked, gulls cried. I followed the wooden planks toward Dock 7, where a small boat rocked gently, paint chipped, name half faded, Mariner's Rest. A man sat on the deck, fixing a net. Gray hair, weathered face, strong hands, the kind of man who'd spent more time at sea than on land. "You're late," he said without looking up. "You're Sam." "Was last time I checked." He finally glanced at me. "You've got your grandfather's eyes. That same mix of stubborn and scared." I swallowed. "He told you I'd come?" "He told me one day a kid with too much anger and not enough direction would show up holding a box that wasn't meant to be opened easily." I looked at the wooden crate beside him, marked with the same initials, WC. "He said when you came," Sam continued, "it would mean the truth had started bleeding through, and that it was time to finish what he couldn't." "What truth?" I asked, my voice low. Sam stood, motioning for me to follow him below deck. The cabin smelled of salt and old wood. He opened a chest and pulled out a thick envelope filled with files, photos, and maps. "Your grandfather wasn't just rich," Sam said. "He was smart. Smarter than the people he trusted. He knew Raymond and the others were bleeding his companies dry through offshore accounts. But he also knew there was something darker buried under it. Something that could ruin the family name forever if it came out wrong." He spread the papers across the table. Old photos of factory workers, ledgers, legal documents. My eyes caught a name stamped repeatedly. Coal Maritime Trust. "What's this?" "The real coal fortune," Sam said. "The one none of them know exists," I frowned. "Grandpa's company was in real estate and manufacturing, not shipping." Sam shook his head. "That's what they wanted the world to think. But before he died, your grandfather shifted everything. Every major holding, every investment, into the Coal Maritime Trust. He made sure none of your family could access it. You're the only beneficiary," I blinked. "That's impossible," Sam smiled faintly. "Not if you control the right signatures. The trust is worth billions, Ethan, and it's hidden behind layers of fake ownership. Raymond's been chasing it for years without knowing you're the key." I felt my knees go weak. "He left, all of it to me?" Sam nodded, "but not for greed. He didn't want the money. He wanted the name restored, the truth exposed. And that's where you come in." I stared at the documents spread out before me, my mind spinning. "Why me? I was the failure." "The outcast." Sam leaned closer, eyes sharp. "Because you were the only one he couldn't buy." Silence. The kind that said too much. Then Sam said, "There's more. Your grandfather recorded one last message. It's buried here, at the bottom of the harbor." He pulled out a small waterproof case from the chest. Inside was a flash drive. "This," he said, "contains the proof that will destroy your uncle's empire. The stolen accounts, forged deeds, everything. But once it's public, there's no going back." I took it, my hands shaking. "What did he say in it?" I asked. Sam looked out the window, his face unreadable. "He said 6 words, Ethan. 6 words that will decide everything. But those words aren't mine to tell. They're yours to hear." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. "Where do I hear them?" Sam handed me a key. "Storage locker on Bainbridge Island, number 14. That's where the final message waits." "Why not just give it to me?" He smirked. "Because your grandfather wanted you to earn it. He said only a man who's walked through loss can carry truth without turning it into revenge." I stood there, heart pounding. "I'm not sure I can do this." Sam clapped a heavy hand on my shoulder. "You already are." As I turned to leave, he said quietly, "Be careful who you trust. Ethan. Especially the ones who claim to love you again." The words followed me all the way back to the pier. When I reached my car, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "We need to talk. It's about your grandfather." Vanessa, I almost ignored it, but something in the pit of my stomach told me not to. That night, I met her in a quiet restaurant downtown. She looked different. Pale, nervous, eyes darting around. "I know you think I'm like the rest of them," she said. "But I found something. In Dad's safe. Files about the trust. He's planning something big. He's scared of you." "Scared of me?" I asked. She nodded. He said if you unlock what Grandpa left, everything collapses. He'll do anything to stop you. I leaned forward. Then help me stop him. She hesitated, tears welling. Ethan, he's already one step ahead. You're not the only one Grandpa left something to. What do you mean? She pulled a folded letter from her purse and slid it across the table. It was sealed in the same gold-embossed crest as mine. To Vanessa Cole, my last instruction. Do not read this until you meet Ethan. He will understand. My pulse quickened. Grandpa wrote to you too? She nodded, and I think he wanted us to work together. I stared at the envelope between us. Every instinct screamed not to trust her, but another voice, one that sounded a lot like Grandpa's, whispered, "Sometimes you can't win alone." I picked it up, exhaling. Then we'll find out what this means. That night, back at my motel, I opened the letter beside Vanessa. It wasn't long. Just a few lines in his careful handwriting. Ethan, Vanessa. If you're reading this together, then the time has come. The harbor has one more secret buried below it. One I couldn't tell either of you until now. Go there at sunrise. Find the vault. And when you do, remember the 6 words? I looked at Vanessa. She looked at me. Neither of us spoke. We both knew this was bigger than inheritance now. This was about truth. About legacy, and about 6 words that could burn everything to the ground. The harbor was dead quiet at sunrise. Fog rolled over the water like smoke, and the gulls circled lazily in the distance. The world felt suspended, like time was holding its breath. Vanessa and I parked near Dock 12, where the letter said to meet. She wore a dark coat, her face pale, lips pressed tight. Neither of us spoke as we walked down the old wooden planks. The only sound was the soft creak of boards under our feet. At the end of the dock was an abandoned boathouse. The door was chained shut, but the key Sam had given me fit perfectly. When it clicked open, Vanessa flinched. Inside was darkness, the kind that swallows sound. Dust floated in the thin shafts of light cutting through the cracks in the wall. Are you sure this is the place? She whispered, Yes, I said quietly. He said the vault was buried beneath the harbor. We searched for nearly half an hour before I noticed a rusted metal hatch near the far wall. It was bolted shut and half covered in grime. The words, barely visible on its surface, made my skin prickle. Cole Maritime Trust. We looked at each other. Help me, I said, grabbing the edge. Together, we pried it open. A stale gust of air rose from below, cold, ancient, metallic. A narrow stairway disappeared into the dark. I flicked on my flashlight. Stay behind me. The steps creaked under our weight as we descended. The air grew colder, damp, heavy. When we reached the bottom, my light fell on a massive steel door built into the wall. A real vault, sealed tight. On its center, a single word was engraved. Truth. Vanessa exhaled. What the hell is this? There was a small keypad beside it. Old, corroded, blinking faintly. I remembered something Sam said. He said 6 words, Ethan. But those words aren't mine to tell. I ran my fingers across the keypad, uncertain. 6 words. The code wasn't numbers. It was a phrase. Then I noticed faint writing on the wall beside the vault. Half erased, scratched into the metal. The key to the truth is buried where trust dies. I turned to Vanessa. Does that mean anything to you? She shook her head, but her eyes were glistening. I think Grandpa wanted you to figure it out. Not me. I stared at the keypad again, heartbeat echoing in my ears. I whispered the words under my breath, one by one. The key to the truth. Then it hit me. Where trust dies. I remembered Grandpa's workshop when I was a kid. There was a small wooden sign above his desk. I used to ask him why he kept it there, and he'd always smile and say, because it's the only rule that never lies. The sign read, Trust no one completely, not even blood. I typed the phrase. The keypad beeped once, twice, then turned green. With a heavy groan, the vault door swung open. Inside were shelves. Hundreds of file boxes, stacks of old ledgers, photographs, recordings, handwritten notes. Generations of secrets. Vanessa covered her mouth. Oh my God. Each box was labeled with a name. Raymond Cole, Vanessa Cole, Richard Cole, Evelyn Blake, and more. Even my name was there. We opened one marked Raymond. Inside were documents, bank statements, transfer receipts, offshore accounts, signatures proving years of corporate theft and fraud. I felt sick. He knew everything. Vanessa opened another box, this one labeled Vanessa. Inside was a folder of contracts, emails, and a photo of her and her husband. She froze. What's wrong? I asked. She didn't answer right away. Her voice trembled when she finally spoke. These are divorce papers, signed, dated 2 weeks before Grandpa died. Her hand shook. He knew. I looked over her shoulder. At the bottom of the box was a letter addressed to her. She unfolded it slowly. Vanessa, you've spent your life chasing a name, not a purpose. I hope one day you see the difference. When Ethan comes, help him. Don't fear what you'll lose. Fear what you've already become. Grandpa tears streamed down her cheeks. He wanted me to change, I nodded. He wanted both of us to. In the corner of the vault was an old metal desk. On it sat a single black safe with a note taped to the top. The end. My breath caught. I turned the dial. The lock clicked open easily, like it had been waiting for me. Inside was a USB drive and another letter, this one marked in bold ink. Play this only when the world is watching. Vanessa frowned. What does that mean? I stared at it, my chest tight. He meant the media, the investigators, the truth. I pocketed the drive and the letter. We stood there in silence. It was too much to process, too much to feel. Then we heard footsteps echoing above. Heavy, purposeful. Vanessa's eyes widened. Ethan. I killed the flashlight and pulled her behind a column. The sound grew closer. Boots thudding on wood, then metal. A man's voice called out. Ethan, I know you're down there. Raymond, I cursed under my breath. He found us, Vanessa whispered. What do we do? I whispered back. We finish what he started. The footsteps reached the top of the stairwell. Raymond's silhouette appeared, gun glinting in his hand. I should have known you'd run here, he snarled. You think you can destroy me with those files? Everything your grandfather built, I built it better. By stealing it, I said coldly. He laughed. And you think you're some kind of hero? You're just like him, too soft to win. But I'll tell you what, Ethan, give me the drive, and I'll let you live. I stepped forward, flashlight beam cutting across the room. You don't get it, do you? You already lost. What? Grandpa's message, it wasn't just for me. It was for everyone watching. Right then, a faint red light blinked in the corner of the room. Raymond followed my gaze, and his face drained of color, a hidden camera. It was recording everything. He raised the gun. You think anyone's going to believe this? I'll destroy that footage before it leaves this room. But before he could move, Vanessa stepped out from behind the column. Her voice trembled but was steady. No, Dad, it's over. He hesitated. Vanessa, you made me lie, cheat, pretend to be something I'm not. Grandpa gave me a chance to change, and I'm taking it. For the first time, Raymond's face softened. Not with guilt, but disbelief. You're choosing him over me? She took a shaky breath. I'm choosing truth over rot. Raymond's jaw tightened. You're both fools. He turned to aim at me, but the gun never fired. Vanessa lunged, pushing his arm. The gun went off, the bullet slamming into a crate behind us. Raymond stumbled, lost balance, and hit the metal railing. It snapped under his weight. He fell. The crash echoed through the vault, then silence. Vanessa froze, shaking. Oh my God! I swallowed hard. He did this to himself. The camera's red light still blinked. I reached for it, pulled the memory card free, and tucked it with the USB. We're leaving, I said. When we climbed back into the sunlight, the fog was finally lifting. We didn't speak on the drive back. There was nothing left to say. But deep inside, I knew the next move, the one Grandpa had been waiting for all along. The world needed to see everything, and the 6 words were still waiting. It took 2 days for the story to break. By the 3rd morning, every major news outlet in the country had the same headline: Cole family empire exposed. Decades of fraud, lies, and betrayal. The footage from the harbor, Raymond's confession, the confrontation, his fall, it all went viral. And when the financial documents hit the investigators' hands, the rest unraveled like a pulled thread. Cole Industries froze its accounts. The board resigned. The family mansion was raided. My phone rang nonstop with reporters, lawyers, distant relatives suddenly remembering my name, but I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I stood at the edge of the harbor, the fog rolling low, the water calm, the world finally quiet. The USB drive and my grandfather's final letter sat in my jacket pocket, the only 2 things I hadn't yet faced. Vanessa was beside me. Her eyes were tired but softer than I'd ever seen them. "Do you ever wonder if he planned all of this?" she asked. I nodded. Every second, she looked out at the water. He broke everything to make us see what we'd become. "Or who we were meant to be," I said. She turned to me. "Are you going to open it?" I pulled out the letter, the one marked play, this only when the world is watching. My hands shook slightly as I unfolded it. Inside was a small note, written in that same precise, steady handwriting I knew by heart. "Ethan, if you're reading this, the storm has passed. The truth is out. They've all seen what they've done, and what they've lost. But this isn't your victory. This is your release. I didn't choose you because you were my favorite. I chose you because you were the only one who'd listen, not to money or pride, but to silence. Now you're ready to hear the 6 words. They're the only inheritance that ever mattered. Read them slowly. Live them fully." Grandpa, below the letter, written in bold, simple letters, were the 6 words that stopped my breath. "Truth is the only lasting wealth." I read them again. Then again, they weren't about revenge. They weren't about winning. They were about freedom. All those years I'd envied my family, their homes, their cars, their easy arrogance, and yet, in the end, I was the only one left standing with anything real. Vanessa's voice broke the silence. "That's what he meant all along." I nodded slowly. He didn't want to punish them. He wanted to free them, but they couldn't handle it. She smiled faintly, tears in her eyes. "He freed you, though." I looked at the horizon. "No, he reminded me I was never trapped." We stood there for a while, just breathing. The wind carried the faint scent of salt and rain, the same smell I'd noticed the first day I came to Seattle. Vanessa turned to leave, but stopped. "What will you do now?" I slipped the letter back into my coat. "Start something honest. Something that builds instead of destroys." Grandpa would like that. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I think he would." She hesitated, then hugged me. It was brief, awkward, but real. When she walked away, I didn't stop her. She needed her own path, her own redemption. Later that afternoon, I went back to Harper's coffee shack. She was behind the counter, cleaning mugs like nothing had changed, though the TV above her played a news segment with my name in bold at the bottom. "Looks like the whole country knows your story now," she said, smiling faintly. "Yeah," I said, sitting at the counter. "And for the first time, I don't care what they think." She nodded approvingly. "William would be proud." I pulled out the letter, sliding it across the counter. "He left me this. The 6 words." She read them, her eyes softening. "Truth is the only lasting wealth." She smiled. "That's him, all right. Always knew what really mattered." I looked at her. "Did you know what he was planning all along?" "Not all of it," she said. "But I knew he was tired of watching lies win." I laughed softly. "Guess he fixed that." She poured me coffee. "So what now, Ethan Cole?" I stared into the cup for a long time, then said, "Now, I build something worth leaving behind." Over the next few months, I turned the Cole Maritime Trust into a foundation, one dedicated to funding honest businesses, helping people rebuild what greed had taken. Not an empire. A beginning. Vanessa joined the board. Harper handled the outreach. We didn't advertise it. We just did the work quietly, the way Grandpa would have wanted. Sometimes at night, I'd walk the pier and imagine him there beside me, the old man with steady eyes and a mind that always saw 10 steps ahead. I'd ask him the same question every time. Did I do it right? And every time, in the rhythm of the waves and the whisper of the wind, I swear I heard his answer. You finally understood, Ethan. That's all I ever wanted. I looked down at the harbor one last time, the sunlight glinting off the water. He gave them millions. He gave me a ticket, and in the end, that ticket didn't take me away from my family. It took me back to myself, because the truth, his truth, was the real inheritance all along. And he was right. Truth is the only lasting wealth.